Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel One Minute Book Bed, and on today's video it is the spooky vlog for Penny Dreadful. This is the front cover of it. It has a lovely design on it, as you can see. It also has gorgeous silver sprayed edges all around. This is the Barnes & Noble edition, and it also comes with a cute little red ribbon, which is very nice because it will help us keep track of where we are doing these spooky vlogs. Love the intricate design on the title page, as well as the design in the book itself, which is very nice. I will be, before I get into Frankenstein, which is the first of the stories that is a part of this book. It's called Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus. This is the 1818 edition by Mary Shelley. Before I get into it, I'm going to do a brief introduction of what the term Penny Dreadful means, through the use of the introduction part of the book, of course, but also just my understanding of it. Like, I've always understood Penny Dreadful to be a collection of short horror stories that was used in like the 19th century to thrill the audience that wanted to be spooked. If you've watched the television show Penny Dreadful, that's a really good way to try and understand what that term means, I suppose. I love that show. I really did. I thought, yeah, I was so gutted when it got axed. I was like, what? Not fair. I mean, we have a werewolf, you got a vampire, we got Dorian Gray. It was just, we got Frankenstein. It was so good. So good. And of course Frankenstein's monster in that as well. So yeah, I'll go through a little bit of the introduction page, just so you guys can have an understanding of what it's saying. My plans to get through one story per vlog, give you guys my opinions of the story, how I feel like it sets into society right now. As you can see, I've kind of just, I'm still in my PJs because I thought it'd be nice to do these vlogs as a very relaxed setting. Just talk about things, and I'd like you guys to interact in the comments below. That would be great. Like, what did you guys think of this TV show Penny Dreadful? I haven't seen Penny Dreadful City of Angels. I don't know what that's like. Is it worth watching? Just let me know in the comments below. That would be great. So yeah, my plan is to do one story every week. And then to carry on this series like next year and the year after, because I think it'd be a really nice thing to do. And it allows me to appreciate each story individually without it being, just rushing through the whole Barnes & Noble's edition of Penny Dreadful. And yeah, I just don't think that would be very good. I wouldn't want to do that, because I want to appreciate each story for what it is, instead of just a rush read to try and get it all there to say, oh, I've read the Penny Dreadful book. I want to take my time with it. This edition I got for Christmas from my family. I was very grateful. It was the last one in the Waterstone store from what I remember, because I remember seeing it there and being like, oh, I'd love that. And my parents came through. That's why there's some like markings on the sleeves, which is kind of suckish, on the paging. But yeah, anyways. So, introduction. Penny Dreadful was used as a catch-all term to describe grim and gruesome tales of horror, an association that has gained a lot of traction thanks to the popularity of the cable television program Penny Dreadful. It's a mashup of characters and themes from supernatural horror stories of the 19th century. But the Penny Dreadful is an actual historical phenomenon. The term came into popularity in the early decades of the 19th century to describe cheaply priced publications that provided thrilling popular fiction primarily for the British working class between the 1830s and 1850s. They were published weekly, and the entertainment they provided shined a glimmering light on the taste of the public that bought them. Let's have a look, see if there's anything. Oh, because I don't want to be. The stories chosen for Penny Dreadful were all first published in the 19th century, when Penny Dreadfuls were showing publishers and writers the public's taste for popular fiction and helping to shape the state of the art of Victorian era horror fiction. I'm really into Gothic horror, so for me this is right up my alley. I'm hoping to do, I think, my second year of English at university. I think there is a module that is Gothic horror that I would like to do. It would be great. So yeah, I'm going to read Frankenstein, or the Modern Prometheus as it's also known, and I'll let you guys. I'll try and hide it because it's hold it up, because otherwise, you know, let you guys think. And probably what I will do is like stop here at certain parts and just read out some of my favourite bits, because I think that would be quite nice as well. So, Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus, Mary Shelley. Did I request thee, maker, from my clay, to mould me, man? Did I select thee from darkness to promote me? Paradise lost. I don't know what that is, but that seems like a very fitting quote for Frankenstein. As he creates, brings life back from the dead. And here I go. Wish me luck. Interesting. It's interesting the language difference between when this was written and the language that we use now. Like the words, I desire the company of a man who could sympathise with me, whose eyes would reply to mine. You may deem me romantic, my dear sister, but I bitterly feel the want of a friend. Like in those terms, in those days, it was like used as more of a, I want friendship. Well, the words, I desire the company of a man, you may deem me romantic, whose eyes would reply to mine, is very romantic. Which is quite interesting, especially considering that this letter was written by a man to a man. So, well, it's written by a man to his sister, but saying he wants a man for company. Like, he's not saying he wants a lady for company, he's saying he wants a man for company, which is quite interesting. How would such a fun repair? So the boat he's on is Archangel, which is quite cool. So the person who's writing is Robert Walton to his sister, who we don't. His sister's called Margaret. Margaret Sewell. Third letter, July the 7th. He's not on the boat anymore. And the length of his letters are decreasing, which is quite interesting. Now on August the 5th. That's Monday, July 31st. We were nearly surrounded by ice. Received. A low carriage fixed on a sledge and drawn by dogs passed on towards the north at the distance of half a mile. A being which had the shape of a man, but apparently of gigantic stature. So this is the first encounter with. I don't really like using the term Frankenstein's monster because I feel like it's a bit, insulting. So I'm going to use Prometheus as his. I think that's what he's kind of termed by anyway. So it's the first encounter with Prometheus. And I think they've just rescued Frankenstein himself. Yeah, I think they've just saved. You seek one who fled from me. Did the man whom you pursued travel in the same fashion? Yes. Then I fancy we have seen him. For the day before we picked you up, we saw some dogs drawing a sledge with a man in it across the ice. It's quite interesting because it stops like. So it's all. So what he's done is kind of done a. It says letter, the fourth letter, but he never actually signs off. Interesting, which means that either it's a journal entry that he's going to send her, but because he never signs it off, it means he doesn't reach her. So maybe we probably sign off at the end of this story, because Frankenstein says to him, I mean, he's not named, but it's basically Frankenstein, like we know who it is. Because he's described as someone who is very gentle in how he talks, very polite, seems to be highly intelligent, and he's quite skinny and small in stature. not small moustache, but he's quite. Like, I think the point that I'm trying to get across is everybody always like talks about, Frankenstein as being the monster of the actual story, not the person he brought back to life. And he's one of those people where you look at him and you don't think, too much about him. He kind of like looks or appears physically weak, but in actual fact, he's highly destructive by what he does, by his experiments that he does. So you meant to kind of, I think, underestimate him. And he says, I do not know that the relation of my misfortunes were useful to you, yet if you are inclined, listen to my tale. I believe that the strange incidents connected with it will afford a view of nature which may enlarge your faculties and understanding. I felt the great eagerness to hear the promised narrative, partly from curiosity and partly from a strong desire to ameliorate his fate, if it were in my power. Express these feelings in answer. I thank you, he replied, for your sympathy, but it's useless. My fate is nearly fulfilled. I wait but for one event, and then I shall repose in peace. I understand your feeling, but you are mistaken, my friend. If thus you will allow me to name you, nothing can alter my destiny. Listen to my history, and you will perceive how irrevocably it is determined. And that then starts the story of Frankenstein. Chapter 1. So to give you guys some inkling, I will obviously shorten this video a lot, but that is how long Frankenstein is. So we're going for a big book, a big story for the first one. It's 153 pages, and I'm only on page 14. So, when he was 15 years old, that's when he witnessed a violent thunderstorm and saw a tree. As I stood at the door on a sudden, I beheld a stream of fire issue from an old and beautiful oak which stood about 20 yards from my house. And so soon as the dazzling light vanished, the oak had disappeared, and nothing remained but a blasted stump. It was not splintered by the shock, but entirely reduced to thin ribbons of wood. I never beheld anything so utterly destroyed. The catastrophe of this tree excited my extreme astonishment. I eagerly inquired of my father the nature and origin of thunder and lightning. He replied, electricity, describing at the same time the various effects of that power. He constructed a small electrical machine and exhibited a few experiments. He also made a kite with a wire and string which drew down that fluid from the clouds. So it was through that he got his fascination with using electricity. Although I don't know if he worked out how to apply it yet, in terms of how to bring back someone back to life using it, which is quite interesting. So at the age of 17, he lost his mom. Jesus. Poor Frankenstein. Yeah, so page 20 now. Gonna try and get this read as much as I can today and hopefully finish it today so you guys can have it tomorrow, but don't write me on that one. So yeah, page 20. So it was after 2 years of studying of chemistry and philosophy that he then asked the question, did the principle of life proceed? It was a bold question, and one which had never... I apologise for my dog, Diesel. Oh, Diesel. Oh, Diesel. Right, the other thing. So it was after 2 years of studying. Oh my... Anyways. So it was after 2 years of studying that he then decided to ask the question, did the principle... Whence I often ask myself, did the principle of life proceed? It was a bold question, and one which had been considered a mystery. Yet with how many things are we upon the brink of becoming acquainted, if cowardice or carelessness did not restrain our inquiries? I revolved these circumstances in my mind, and determined thenceforth to apply myself more particularly to those branches of natural philosophy which relate to physiology. So it was during that time that he then decided to ask, when after life does death occur? It's quite interesting. Unless I'd been animated by an utmost supernatural enthusiasm, my application to this study would have been irksome and almost intolerable. To examine the courses of life, we must first have recourse to death. I became acquainted with the science of anatomy, but this was not sufficient. I must also observe the natural decay and corruption of the human body, which in our day terms would be the study of forensic science, or branch of forensic science anyways, which is what my boyfriend studied. He got a first in that. In my education, my father had taken the greatest precautions that my mind should be impressed with no supernatural horrors. So this is where I think he starts thinking along the lines of life after death. He finally brought a person back to life. There are things that you shouldn't mess with. That's why we have all these laws to stop crazy scientists from doing these things. It just amuses me with Frankenstein though, that he worked so hard to bring someone back to life, and yet his first response in seeing that was to run away. I think even deep down, even he knew that he crossed the line. I mean, his wording here. Oh, no mortal could support the horror of that countenance. A mummy again endued with animation could not be so hideous as that wench. I gazed on him while unfinished. He was ugly then, but when those muscles and joints were rendered capable of motion, it became a thing such as even Dante could not conceive. Wow. So I'm on chapter 6 now. It's really good. I don't want to give too much spoilers about Frankenstein. I mean, the whole him bringing someone back to life is kind of, I think, a well-known thing. But in terms of what happens to him, I don't want to give too much, but he's just received really sad news. That means he must return home. It's quite interesting because Frankenstein is actually less about his actions or what he's done and more about his life, which is quite interesting. Which I didn't really imagine it would be, but it's really fascinating to read. So I'm enjoying it. that makes sense. Okay, so it looks like obviously the person that he brought back has came back for revenge, and he's bringing a lot of misfortune on Frankenstein. That makes sense. On page 44. So, much I'm on now. It's really good. Also, I love the description of it. I perceived in the gloom a figure which stole from behind a clump of trees near me. I stood, fixed, gazing intently. I could not be mistaken. A flash of lightning illuminated the object and discovered its shape plainly to me. Its gigantic stature and the deformity of its aspect, more hideous than belongs to humanity, instantly informed me that it was the wretch, the filthy demon to whom I gave in life. Dun, dun, dun. So it's finally happened, page 60, and it's the first proper reunion between Frankenstein and Prometheus. So, yeah, see what happens now. So, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I'm on page 75, and I'm currently listening to Prometheus's story of what happened after he left Frankenstein, and how he basically survived in all those. So, yeah, I'm at the bit where he's talking to Frankenstein about when he left Frankenstein after being brought back to life, and what he got up to in those couple of months, how he learned to talk the way that he is, which is literally by listening to other people, how he survived, especially in those winter months. It's really interesting, actually. Quite nice. So, I'm on chapter 17 and page 97, and I've been reading for the past, I think, like hour and a half, so I'm gonna go and take a quick break, get some food, because I need lunch, and then I'll come. So yeah, I'm gonna have a quick break now, and then I'm going to come back and finish the rest of the story. So yeah, I'm gonna have a quick break now, gonna come back and finish the rest of the story. It's only another 56 pages, not that much, just got that much left, and then I'm done. It'll be quite nice. And that would be the first of the spooky reader vlog. I will give my thoughts afterwards on what I thought of the story. So, see you in a bit. Back to reading. And I got to chapter 17. Yeah. So, here I go. So, I'm on page 135 and chapter 23. Did not even realise. It's gone so quick. Not much more to go now. Just got just that little bit. Looks like a lot, but it isn't really, to be fair. It's just that little bit left. So, and it's the end of the book. So yeah, I'm just gonna crack on, get this done, and I'll let you all know what I think. See you in a bit. Bye. Back again. I really didn't mind. Just got changed. Got a bit cold. Where am I at? I'm on page 136. So carry on. It's getting really good so far. I'm really enjoying it. He's very isolated right now because of Prometheus, who, you know, has got his revenge. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to spoil it too much if you haven't actually read the original novel of Frankenstein. I would say it's definitely worth reading. I'm really enjoying it. It's very good for this time of year because it's Halloween, it's all spooky, and I think it's a really strong introduction to the Penny Dreadful stories. It really sets the bar high. And I'm quite happy with how much I've read. I've read 136 pages so far. And when I finish with this, which will be today, it will be, 153 pages? I finished yesterday City of Ashes by Cassandra. I was really happy with that. So this week started really strong, and I'm really happy. It's like, in terms of my reading, it started really strong. And I've read a bit more of Crescent City too, which I'm really happy with. So hoping to read a bit more of that tonight as well. But I love doing these. I think having like this vlog where I can just talk about things, it's really nice. It's a nice thing to do. So yeah, thank you for joining me so far, and I'll let you know what I think of the story at the end. So stay tuned. So we're towards the end of the story. Victor has finished basically telling kids what happened to him, and now we're back in as Walton, who is the original narrator at the beginning of the story. So yeah, he's now sending this story to his sister Margaret, and quite a horrific one it was. Very close to finishing now. Page 149. And Frankenstein's not doing so good. Oh, that was the end. Wow. I'm gonna put that there, I think. So yeah. Wow. The next one isn't as long. It's like a couple pages. I don't know about the werewolf. Let me have a look. I think maybe, did I do two or just one for Sunday? I don't know. We'll see how I feel. But wow, that was something. The first time I've ever read basically Frankenstein in its original form. Wow, in the 1818 release of it, and it's so interesting in comparison to like the adaptations of the story that we get, like in Penny Dreadful, the TV show, or the Frankenstein movies. But yet, it's so much different because it's less about him creating Prometheus, but more based on the effects of creating Prometheus instead. And how his mistake carried on haunting him till the end of his life. It's so interesting. But I think there's also a thing in here about how you can learn from your mistakes. And you really feel sorry for both of them, to be honest. Like you really feel sorry for Prometheus. He's isolated, alone. He's got no one there to help him, to guide him. But then you kind of, in a really twisted way, feel sorry for Frankenstein too. Because at first he was trying to do, I suppose, his approach to science was to try and create a miracle, but kind of ended up making a nightmare. And you see that throughout the story. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I definitely think it's definitely worth a read. Although there is a lot of, as I said, that's the 1818 release of it. So there's a lot of like more old-fashioned language that was used in the original Frankenstein story, and how they describe things, and the format of the story is so vastly different, which I think is one of the things I was struggling with. That's why it took me so long to read it. Pure because of the fact that you're going from like letter forms to finding out what's happening to how everything is kind of described. It's like really long descriptions of things, and even the way that they talk is very obviously set in the old times, so it's really interesting. I really enjoyed it. It's very classic literature, very gothic literature, and yeah, it's a great way to start off October, I think. So if you haven't read Frankenstein, give it a read. Definitely, really good. It's a great way to start things off. Don't really have much else to say, to be honest. It was just really, it's a really fun read, and I'm really happy to be able to share this with you. So the next story that's on here is The Adventure of the German Student by Washington, I think. It's only a couple of pages long, so I don't know whether to combine it with something or whether to just treat it as its own little reading vlog. I suppose it kind of gives a nice break from the really long Frankenstein story, which was made by, of course, Mary Shelley. And I think that is actually something I want to really touch on. Like, it's so cool how she wrote that story in the times that she did, where it was kind of seen less acceptable for a woman to write stories, and she made something, an iconic horror monster, which I think is amazing. And I love actually how she wrote kind of the women in the story too, because they were also seen as, while they were where they were in society because of how societies were structured in those days, they still had a form of intelligence to them, which I think in those times wasn't really seen as much when it was written. Like, they were very much written as very, you know, like housewives kind of thing, because that's what they women in society back then, that's how they were. But even Elizabeth, who was meant to be, well, who is Frankenstein's wife, I'll just say that, eventually she, even as a kid, she was still given pretty much similar education to Frankenstein, so she was still taught like Greek and Latin, which I find really cool. So yeah, I love how she wrote women in those times. I think it's a really brilliant story for when it was set and when it was released, and very iconic. It's an iconic car, and you can't go wrong with that. So yeah, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in next week's spooky vlog. Bye.